Hello everybody and welcome to this review of Bite, another book by Richard Laymon. So, what do you do when a vampire comes knocking? Bite is a thrilling adventure of horror, vampires and old flames from the master of the macabre, Richard Laymon. Perfect for fans of Stephen King and Joe Hill. When Sam's ex-girlfriend Kat arrives at the door, he can't believe his eyes. So, this was published in 1996, and that little read there was off of Google. So that's just a little read. I've just read this recently, so literally I've just finished reading this again. This was the first Laymon I ever read, so I'm a little bit biased with this one, as I was hooked on Laymon after reading this book. So yeah, I do really like this book. Is it Laymon's best book? It was in the top 10 for me. A lot of people don't like this book, but as I said, I'm quite biased towards it. I like this book. So it's got the usual front cover of most of Richard Laymon's books, the large writing. It's got the art there, which is pretty cool. Picture of a car, of a man holding the looks like a unconscious female. Some blackbirds in the air and the sun's rising. So from the title Bite, obviously yeah, it's going to be a book about vampires, or is it? So I'm just going to read the back opening of the book. So tick tock, Sam's in the wardrobe with a hammer in one hand, a wooden stake in the other, and a heart full of fear. It's almost midnight. Kat's on the bed, face down and nude. Sam's former girlfriend, the only woman he's ever loved. Together they wait, because the vampire's coming. So there you go. So it's got the usual bits on the back about Richard Laymon's books from Stephen King and other authors like that. So if you haven't read this book, it's basically a is it or isn't it a vampire that turns into something completely different, and I'm going to start going into it now. If you haven't read the book, as I said, I'm going to do spoilers and talk about it, talk about the plot, talk about the characters. So if you haven't read it and you want to read it, I would suggest having a look at it, because I liked it. A lot of people, like I say, a lot of people didn't, but it's everyone's preference, isn't it? Yeah, so if you haven't read it and you want to read it, I'm going to do spoilers, so I'll give you the old 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you haven't left now, unfortunately, it's going to get spoiled for you. So, Bite. So as I've said, this movie, I'm doing a movie review again now. This book review has everything that I like in stories. It's got a lot of vampire myth and lore in it. It's got the element of, is it a vampire or isn't it a vampire? What is it? What's the actual what's actually going on with it? It's another book where they're on the road. As I've said before, I like road books, road movies, movies like Duel, Near Dark, The Hitcher, Jeepers Creepers. I love those sort of movies where they're on the road and they're just, something's pursuing them. Bite has that element, which is good because it's on the road. It has a vampire element or not a vampire element. It's down to the reader's imagination. It's packed with possible serial killers, which is cool, which is another element of the story. So the start of the book is a little tiny bit odd in my opinion. And the reason I'll say that, it's the only bit that really makes me think, well, what's this about? So let me put it to you this way. You had a girlfriend or boyfriend years ago, and they were like your first love, your flame, and you often think, you wish you'd never split up with them or something like that. So it's been years later, and this person comes knocking on your door in the middle of the night, and says to you, I need your help. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, what's up? And they say to you, I've got a vampire who's sucking my blood of an evening, and I need you to come around my house and kill him. Okay, so that is the only part of this story that I didn't think was great. I thought could have been a bit better. Could have been done better. But so there's characters called Sam and Kat. So Kat is Sam's long lost love. They broke up years ago. She moved to another city. She never saw him again. He always loved her, but she never loved him. And he's never got over that. He's now a teacher, I believe. Or yeah, he's become a teacher. She went off and married a guy with money, and she thought that her life was going to be brilliant. So anyway, she comes to the apartment in the night, knocks on his door, and tells him this story about this vampire. And the vampire is called Elliot. Yeah. So Elliot, yeah. I'm not sure where that name came from, but that was the name of the vampire. So she explains to Kat explains to Sam, that he's coming every night and he's sucking her blood, and she feels like she's got nowhere to turn because no one will believe her. But Sam, being the good guy that he is, just instantly believes her, and off he goes round to her place to await this vampire who's due to arrive at midnight and kill him. Yep, just killed this bloke. So this teacher who works at a school has decided that he needs to kill someone for somebody he hasn't seen in years. So that is the only part, as I say, of the story. It didn't make much sense to me. However, you can kind of get over that. So he goes round to the house and she tells him a bit more about what's been happening to her in her life. And so throughout the book, bits about what's happened to Kat and how she got to where she is evolve. You get more of the story. So Sam arrives. He gets into the closet and he's got a stake and a hammer because she tells him that's the only way he's going to kill him, which is vampire lore, isn't it? A stake to the heart was the only way to kill a vampire, isn't it? Or sunlight, or blasted with sunlight. Even though sunlight can only burn them unless they're left out in it, isn't it? Other vampire lore says that vampires can walk in daylight. They just can't. Their powers aren't as strong and they're quite weak. So there's different myths about vampires, isn't there? So he awaits for vampire Elliot to arrive. Elliot eventually does arrive. Kat gets naked on the bed because that's how he likes her to be presented when he turns up, and he turns up and begins obviously sucking on her neck. So Sam then bursts out the cupboard, wooden stake and hammer through the back, straight through his back, blood everywhere, which would happen in reality, wouldn't it? And Elliot bites Sam's wrist. Now he bites Sam's wrist with his fangs, but it turns out that Elliot has metal fangs that remove. So, is he a vampire or is he a wannabe vampire? Or do we just believe that vampires have fangs? And we're just led to believe that, and that's in the myths and the legends. So, a lot of vampire lore goes back to eternal youth, doesn't it, and stuff like that. So yeah, he ends up getting bitten on his wrist. Elliot then has the stake through him, for his heart, and dies as a vampire can die. So they then put him into a bed sheet, wrap him up, and they then work out that obviously disposing of a body isn't as easy as it's done in the movies, is it? So they have to chuck him out the window. And they chuck him out the window after taping the stake in place, because they say if they pull the stake out, will he come back to life? That's the question of this story, isn't it? So yeah. So that's how it begins. It's an odd beginning. It doesn't make much sense at all. But yeah, now they're in this position where they've got to get rid of this body. If he's a vampire or not, it doesn't matter. In the eyes of the law, they've murdered, haven't they? So they've got to now get rid of this person. So they then set out on the road to dispose of him in the desert, basically. They head out of LA, I think it is, into the desert to get rid of him, basically. And along the way, you learn more about the story. That Kat married a very sadistic man who was a doctor, obviously a highly paid doctor, but he was very into torture, brutality, and, you know, hurting her, basically. And it's a horrific story along the way about how she got pregnant and he, you know, got rid of the child for his kicks and his laughs as being a doctor, and he was kind of just getting away with this stuff. So there's some horrific stuff in here, some usual Laymon stuff, some usual horrific, you know, some violence especially towards Kat when you hear about her life and what's happened to her. And then she starts going out looking for a hitman, basically, to kill her husband because she feels so desperate she can't get away from him. So she goes out looking for a hitman, and in the course of looking for a hitman, she comes under a horrific attack, which you can only imagine is like a Hills Have Eyes style, I spit on your grave style attack, in just trying to find this hitman, you know, and makes for pretty painful reading. But then she obviously meets this Elliot who's out at night in his vampire cape, tooling around early hours of the morning down at the beach. It's all very odd. He takes her home, and then he agrees somehow to kill her husband. So she then pays him to kill her husband, with the deal that he also attacks her and, you know, makes her look like she's injured, as well as, you know, when it makes it look a home invasion, basically, that went wrong. So that all happens, but then she can't get rid of Elliot afterwards. He then takes over her life. He comes along, starts sucking her blood every night with his metal fangs. And she can't get out of that situation, so that's part of that. And Sam agrees, like I say, to help her. He seems very gullible, this Sam. But yeah, so along the way, they end up running into another character called Snow White, who's described as like a biker, a big biker bloke, muscular biker bloke, who's got long grey hair, and that's why he's called Snow White. No explanation as to why he's out there, really. He just gets seen one night when they're looking for a way through the desert, because they're looking for somewhere to put his body, and they end up driving off road and they end up going in. It's so dark they can't see where they're going, so they get out the car to walk in front of it one at a time, sort of thing, while they guide themselves around these rocks and hills and boulders while they're trying to look for a suitable place. And then they suddenly run into this Snow White character who's walking around in the dark. He seems alright at the beginning, but then he slowly starts to become a bit nasty, a bit menacing, and before they know it, from what he said and the way he's talking, he's been out there for a while doing some nasty stuff by the sounds of it, and I think he's a serial killer. They then ditch him. They manage to ditch him, like, throughout the story. They're trying to find a way to get away from him, and they manage to find a way to get away, and they manage to get away from him. So then you think they're back to the normal story of trying to find a place to bury Elliot. But then next minute, back comes Snow White, and he's got hostages. He's taken a girl and a boy, teenagers, hostage. So now Sam and Kat have made the decision, Kat mainly, that it's her fault that he's took these hostages. If they had just behaved themselves, he would never have done any of this stuff. So somehow they find themselves owing Snow White. So it turns into they've now got a hostage situation. So they've got to do what Snow White says in order for these two teenagers, Peggy and Donnie, to stay safe. Peggy and Donnie are on the road in a van, and Snow White has taken the van and taken them hostage. No real questions as to what happened to Peggy and Donnie's parents. It's explained by them later on in the book, but it's very odd. Like I say, it's such a good twist, this book, and this is a real spoiler if you haven't read this book. Like I say, up to now, both Peggy and Donnie also turn out to be a couple of serial killers who are on the road, but Snow White doesn't know that, and neither does Sam and Cat. And what they do is, it's turned out that years ago, Peggy basically kidnapped Donnie through his lust, basically. He didn't have a very good life at home. She's got a van, she's on her own. She then grooms him, basically. It's quite a weird story. She's kind of groomed him into being like a serial killer. And what he does is, he is a little bit older, but he actually looks like a young boy. So he and her go on the road, and they go to different truck stops or diners and stuff like that, and they try to lure people into the truck, to do not very nasty things, and then they basically murder them and steal all their stuff, by the sounds of it. And that's how they've been living. So it's a good part of the story, because it's such a twist, because it goes completely away from the vampire, is he or isn't he, to Sam and Cat trying to rescue Donnie and Peggy from Snow White. Peggy then appears to rescue Donnie from Snow White, who meets his end, and then they try to kill Sam and Cat. And Sam and Cat are finding they're having to fight for their lives against Donnie and Peggy now. All the while, there's still no answer as to if Elliot was ever a vampire. And that's what's good about the story and the way it's left. Because the way it's left, it answers that, doesn't answer the question as to whether he really was a vampire or not. Because he certainly drank blood, he certainly had an appetite for blood, and he was certainly quite violent and strong. But was he a vampire or wasn't he? And a good element of the story is that at one point of the book, Snow White finds out they've got Elliot in the boot, and he becomes obsessed with wanting to become a vampire himself and have eternal life. So part of the story is that he also wants to become a vampire if Elliot is a vampire. So he would preferably like to wake him up if he can pull the stake out. So it's a is he or isn't he a vampire book. It's good. There's some good stuff in here about vampires, lore, and bits and bobs about that. And it talks about things that normal people, vampire stuff that people would look at. Like, once you've staked a vampire, in some of the countries they say about removing the head, don't they, and burying it on a crossroads. It's got to be a crossroads, because then no vampire can approach it and resurrect him or anything like that. So yeah, there's some good bits in the book like that. But yeah, it's in the top 10. I first read this in 2006 or 2007 when I bought it from Charing Cross Waterstones. And it's one of my favourites. I've just read it again recently, and I've read this book so many times since 2006. I really do like it. It's a good book. I would suggest having a look at it, because it's got so many twists and turns. It has got a little bit of the stomach churning, normal like Laymon stuff in here. As you know, Laymon's books, the brutality, especially involving females, is a bit stomach churning at times. Kind of like I say, I Spit on Your Grave style, or Last House on the Left. It's not it's not for everybody. So as long as you've got a bit of a stomach for what you're reading and you can sort of go past that, it's pretty good. But yeah, it's a really good book. like I say, I'm a big Laymon fan. I would say this one is definitely in the top 10 for me, right up there with Fun House, you know, Night in a Lonesome October, Body Rides, Flesh. You know, there's some really good ones out there, and this is for me, a good one. But as I say, a lot of people didn't like it. The only part I'll say, again, going back, is the beginning. The beginning was, could have done something different with the beginning. Maybe if she hadn't mentioned vampire or something like that until he had killed him. Maybe just mentioned he was brutalising her in some way or hurting her, and Sam could have come to see for himself hiding in the cupboard and then realised that he did need to defend her. So, you know, that was the only bit that didn't make sense of the whole book. But other than that, it was a really good book. I liked it. Obviously, it's just my opinion. People don't, you know, opinions aren't worth anything, are they? You know, just read it for yourself. Have a little look, see what you think. Thanks for tuning in for the reviews. Don't forget to look at my other reviews and stuff like that. I've got some gameplays. I've got all different stuff on there. I've got reviews of magazines. I have a little bit of everything on my channel. So thanks for tuning in. Take care now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep reading.